I thought about you two and then like the community as a whole a lot when making this film, because it's hard to make a film that is both satisfying to like the gym nerds and also the general audience. And I really tried to walk that line so that there's a little something for everyone. So I'm grateful for your whole community that I'm a part of and listen to this show all the time. And I'm glad that everyone's enjoying the movie.
This is a follow-up discussion with Katie Walsh, the director of Simone Biles Rising, the documentary that's on Netflix right now. And so she listened to our review earlier this week, and now she's responding to our comments and questions from that earlier podcast. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Scenes. Today we have a very, very special guest. We are joined by Katie Walsh, the director of both Simone documentaries. Katie, thank you for joining us.
So happy to be here. I've been doing a lot of interviews, but I think I've been most excited about this one because I feel like you guys are my people. And I'm so happy to just like talk with you about this and like really talk about it.
Yes, I'm so glad. So if you're new to Behind the Scenes, this is a show that we do every Friday at noon Pacific, or we do it live competitions like this week coming up. I'm leaving for Paris on Sunday, and we might do a live after men's podium training. It depends. There might be like a lot of news to catch up with, which we're going to get to soon because of Japan. But women's podium training for sure is our first live. So that'll be Thursday. And there's a schedule up and there's links so you can join us there. So Katie, let's start talking about the documentary. Okay.
Good. I got all the notes. I'll tell you all the things.
First things first, fall are the next two episodes.
Spencer was right on this. It's more like October fall. As you recognize, Spencer, it takes a lot to turn these around, and it's super stressful.
Yeah.
Netflix needs time they've got to like subtitle it in a bajillion languages and do all the things. So we turn it around fast for this next run, really fast, scary fast, but it still takes some time on the back end to get it all ready. So I don't have a date yet. I personally just don't even know, but I think it's October, somewhere in the October timeframe. So, but when we go to Paris, we will be editing and filming simultaneously. So every night we send our footage. It somehow magically goes into the universe and lands in Los Angeles, and then it gets turned around and then it edits. And so we're just like rinse and repeat each day. So it's all happening at the same time.
So speaking of, I know that you listened to the behind the scenes we did earlier this week where we talked about the documentary. So
and I listened to all of them, not just the ones about this film. So
I would only listen to the ones about me. If it's not about me, what's the point?
No wonder it's so good, because you're very well-informed gym nerd at this point. So tell us about waffles and hair braiding.
Yes, we'll start.
What I wanted to know. Yeah.
Yes, all the stuff. So Worlds 2023. So this film was officially greenlit, I think, 4 days before Worlds 2023. So I just like literally jumped on a plane and like straight off to Antwerp. And we were allowed to film with Simone, but not in her room. Anytime she's with the team and competing as part of the team, then you can't go in her hotel room, or really like in the hotel in general was kind of the general vibe there. So what we worked out was there was like a conference room area to this hotel. And a lot of different, like Team Canada had their PT person there, and everyone would get a room. And they're just these small little rooms with like a huge conference table that takes up basically the whole room. And we could only film within the confines of this, like, 5x9 room. So when you see people walking by, we're filming out into the hallway for a little bit of like depth of field. And so those are just people going to their own conference room.
Yeah.
So, and then we would kind of bring things into that space. So Nellie would come and braid Simone's hair there. Nellie could go to Simone's hotel room, but we couldn't. So they would work with us and come to that other spot. And then the waffle day, there had just been a lot of discussion about waffles and Belgium and the need to have the best waffles. So our fixer, who was from Antwerp, one morning was like, I'm going to go and get the best waffles at this one spot. And of course, that morning he overslept and almost missed the whole thing. And he was like scrambling to get, all the way around town. And so he made it just in the nick of time. But so we brought all those waffles in as a surprise for Nellie and Simone and Ron, so that they could have like a breakfast together. So that's how that came about.
So with the access to like Simone, her hotel room, are those like USAG rules that like, they have to be very strict and specific about that kind of stuff? Yeah.
That's my understanding. So they're very careful with where you film and what you film. So we have to make sure we're staying within those boundaries.
One of the things I'm curious about, especially heading into the second documentary you've done with Simone, in talking with Simone about it, what were some of her goals in terms of like, this is what I want people to learn, or this is what I want to get out of this, what I want to express?
Yes. So I think for her, trying to reach a larger audience and showcase her as a human being is the goal. So many people that are not following gymnastics at the level that we all follow gymnastics, they watch her in her performances in a vacuum, like once every 4 years. And then that's kind of it. And that's where they draw their judgment. And that's where they decide what kind of person she is or what her story is. And, telling a story that goes much more deeply into all the components of her life and also tries to look at what happened in Tokyo from other sides and other perspectives. I think just being honest and true to who she is was what we were trying to do in this film, and what would honor her the best, and not just, because she's so much more. I mean, yeah, she's the best gymnast of the whole wide world, and I'm not biased in saying that, but she's so much more than just a gymnast. She's really a great person. She's so fun. She's so funny. She's so smart. And I think trying to get a little bit of that across, and some of those just other sides that make her a person, was the goal of everyone on this film.
Was there a difference between your discussions with her about what her goals were going into the first documentary pre-Tokyo and this one?
No, Simone is she's focused on what she's got to do and her job. And I give her a lot of credit because she gave a lot of her trust over to us and our team to capture what she was doing in that moment. She was not micromanaging at all, to say the least. So she's got her thing. She's pretty busy, and she has her goals and her focus and what she needs to do to get her job done. And she really left to us what we need to do to get our job done.
That's awesome. I mean, I think this is one of the reasons that I enjoyed working with you guys. Is I think I told you after I did my first interview with you guys is oh, your team is really lovely, lovely people. There's such a good vibe on your sets. Yeah. And I really appreciate that. And so I wanted to ask you, how do you deal with the silly people?
One of my favorite quotes, Jessica. I love that you brought that. I have been going, how do you deal with people who are so silly for months now? Because Celine Noni was one of my first interviews, and I just love that moment. She cuts it all down with that one little line and just kind of pushes it away. And she's just in a very French way, which also is just my favorite.
We do enjoy the Frenchisms. Okay, since I offended all the people under 5 feet tall by asking about whether or not Simone has to have a booster seat or blocks, we got a letter, of course. So does she need anything special, or is her car customized? Real behind the scenes.
This is a very good question, and I need to do some investigative journalism on this, because I have not noticed any special equipment or attire. So not that I know of, but that car is really big. I mean, I have to it's got one of those platforms you step on to get up into the car. And I put my hand on it. I need to also boost myself to get up. So I don't know that she has anything special in there, but I will do some further investigation.
Okay. Was there anything in terms of the interviews with various people that surprised you, or with new information that you learned, even though being a gym nerd and knowing the story you're going to tell already about Simone? Was there something where you're what? Huh?
That's a good question. I think for me, it was more the further context that so many people provided, Dr. Ani Willis-Rogers, who is my hero in this film. I just love her so much. And just the insight she was able to bring, and Betty and Dominique and the insight they were able to bring. Everybody was so honest and open with their personal journeys, and then connected that to Simone, that I really just, even having spent so much time with Simone, I felt like all of these other voices added a lot to her story, and how we perceive her story, which was the premise of the film, was that there's this outside world that looks in on Simone and judges and decides what they see and what that experience is, and then there's Simone's experience from the inside looking out. And I was trying to represent both those sides, but also find the moments where they deviate, and where maybe the experience that she's having on the inside is not what's being reflected to the outside world, and how those two things kind of intermix.
Was there discussion about how you decided what to show when you're talking about the abuse, and like who to show and all that stuff?
Yes, there was lots of discussion. And I thought, so I've spent a lot of time filming and covering and spent with the survivors in the Larry Nassar case. I did the ESPY Award doc in 2018. I'm acutely aware of the potential to trigger someone just re-talking about things, interviewing Allie about it, interviewing Simone about it. I'm very sensitive to that topic and how we approach it and how we talk about it. And so, and in this film, yes, it's a part of her story, so it's inevitable that it has to be addressed, but we've also told this story a lot, right? I've told it. We've watched it in Athlete A. We've seen it many times before. I didn't want to just be like, this is the who, what, when, and why of what happened. So what I tried to do is tell the story as it pertains to Simone's personal experience. And that's what I tried to do with a lot of these, I call them history pops, which I'm sure we'll discuss more of. But I wanted to look at it and look at that experience, but then look at it as to how it impacted how it impacted Simone and what that meant in her personal experience and her personal journey. So that was my goal throughout the film. And I knew, like, for instance, when we were talking about the abusive coaches and, having to showcase and, put in those images. And, I was very careful with who we used. We only used people that have been actually like convicted or, had some sort of formal, sort of like proof. Because there's obviously other faces we could put in there. But, I was very careful and trying to be just mindful overall of not just Simone and her own personal feelings, but also the feelings of people that are going to watch. Because I know many survivors are, going to watch, and whether you're part of the gymnastics community or not. And I wanted to just be thoughtful in that approach.
Yep. Can we talk about the interpretation we talked about earlier this week of Kerri Strug's vault and agency and all of that, how that was interpreted? Did you reach out to her? What happened?
Yes, I did. On multiple occasions. It didn't work out. I think that ultimately it probably just isn't something she wanted to revisit. Don't totally know, but I did make an attempt. What I tried to do with that moment, I thought a lot about that, because I don't ever want to take someone's personal experience and, misrepresent it, or to, I want to make sure that I'm being fair to all sides and all parties at all times. And with that experience, Simone received so much, so many comparisons to her when she pulled out of Tokyo. That's why it was relevant to our film, because people kept being like, why can't you be more like Kerri Strug? Why can't you just like muscle through it? And, so in telling her experience, it wasn't to say that what Kerri did was wrong at all, because it wasn't. And I don't feel that way, but it was just to contextualize for Simone that it was different. And, I wanted all of these history moments to be narrated ultimately by Simone, like at the top and the bottom. She's the one that brings us in and brings us out. Dominique obviously walks us through it because she was there. But I wanted it to be more about Simone and how, I wanted her to have that final say of why it wasn't the same, and why, had she just kept pushing through in Tokyo with the twisties, the outcome could have been so much more, dangerous than what we've seen in the past. So that was the reasoning and the thought process behind bringing Kerri's story into this, and, really using it as a way to contextualize Simone's experience in Tokyo. Jessica, I will go through and answer all my notes that I have from you guys on Wednesday. I'll try. Okay. I tried to keep him to a bare minimum. I needed him in 2016 because he was the 2016 voice, but anytime initially he would pop up in other places when like there was like kind of a montage of calls, and I was like, nope, get him out. So I did my best to keep that on the low.
And we appreciate it.
Let's see what else. Women in foreign voices. I wrote yes, and my goal was to have this primarily like a women-centric film and voices be women-focused. This is a women's sport. This is not a women's sport, but this is a women's sports story. And I wanted it to be from that voice. I also really wanted to have foreign voices because I wanted to show that Simone's impact is global. You know, it's not just about what the US audience thinks of her. It's about what the world sees. So I was very careful to do that. Lori Hernandez, stay tuned. The real coaching moment of the falling down, totally agree. That was the most, for the most part, like Simone, her coaching is more like a collaboration between her and Laurent because she knows what she's doing. You know what I mean? She doesn't need to there's not a lot to learn, but I agree in that moment. I was like, and I had no idea what he was saying either, but it felt like a real coaching moment to me. Oh, and in the Atlas statue. Yes. I think in all fairness, in that moment where she said that about the thing on her back, I'm pretty sure I also couldn't remember the name of the statue. So I couldn't have probably corrected her had I wanted to. But I think that Simone just being herself and being totally real is what I love so much about her. She's very like what you see is what you get. And to me, that's what makes her such a amazing human and so fun to be with because she's just real. Like she doesn't change who she is based on who she's talking to. It's something I really admire about her. So I certainly wasn't going to edit her.
It ends up being a much more relatable and genuine moment from her being like, because that's how people, you don't say like, oh, I meant this statue by this artist. That's not how you talk when you're talking to people. Yeah.
Exactly.
We have a question here from Karen. She says, sorry for so many questions. How much access will you have to Simone when you get to the Olympics? I'm assuming it's different from Worlds and US meets, or will it be similar to Worlds 2023?
Yes, no, we're going to have great access, I think. So my understanding, this is a unique opportunity because Netflix has partnered with the IOC on this film. The IOC is a producer, which means that we're considered part of the Olympic Broadcasting Service, OBS, which means I get to wear the awesome OBS outfit the entire Olympics. So I really don't need to pack that much. So therefore, we have access to places that we wouldn't ordinarily. And, I've covered a bunch of Olympics for NBC and for other outlets. And, it's pretty restrictive, but there's going to be more access. Like I get to go to the Olympic Village this week and I'll be in the hallways backstage like before the competition. So there's definitely, there's going to be places I can't go, but the access is way better than any experience I've ever had, which is what, I'm so excited about as a filmmaker, because I feel like this might be one of those times where you actually get to see what's going on, outside of the competition venue.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited that you get to do that. So I know you're super busy and I want to let you go. But I want to ask, because this is always like so important to me. And I'm always encouraging women. And we do have women who literally, this is their profession now, because they've literally written in and said, because you were like, women, get into this. If you want more women behind the camera, do this. We've had it work. So Katie, you are amazing. You've accomplished something huge. You have Emmys. This documentary is definitely going to win awards, so prepare yourself. Do you have a gown? You're going to need a gown. That's what I'm saying.
That is definitely not my problem today.
What is your advice for getting women into directing like you, or like your director of photography, Jessica? Is that what you?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, we're a women-led crew, so we have women both on the crew that you see, Jess, when we're on these shoots, and then also back in the edit, like our editors, our story producers, we're very women led. From my perspective, it's just something you have to prioritize. Like as far as building teams that are women led, it can be really easy to fall into the routine of working with the same people that you know and trust all the time, which there's nothing wrong with that, but so often those teams include, are mostly male led. So I've made a huge concerted effort whenever it's my turn to get to choose a more diverse team and a more women forward team. Not to say that we don't have, I also think there's many wonderful qualified men that I work with and appreciate so much on this project and all projects. But, you have to create the space for people to step in. And if you don't make an effort to do that, it may not happen. So I've made a real effort to do that. And with these projects, whenever I do have these opportunities, I try to bring in people from the team that I know and trust and have worked with in the past, and also leave space for new people that I maybe just don't have a rapport yet, but that could really bring something to the table. And that's what we did with this project. And I feel really grateful because it's worked out so beautifully. And if you're out there wanting to be a female filmmaker, or just a filmmaker who happens to be female, do not give up. Always keep pushing. There's a will, there's a way. And I know that sounds a little, you can do something on the side. Like when I was a production assistant, I wanted to produce features, and I was getting opportunities to do it after hours. So I would work my full, 12-hour PA day, and then I would start doing stuff after to try and get ahead. And you just have to look for every opportunity. Every opportunity is worth something. You can learn from everything you do. So never, just look for the perfect opportunity. Just try and, get all the chances to get yourself out there and keep working for it. I mean, I've been at this for over 20 years. So it didn't come quickly, but I'm grateful to be here, and hopefully we'll bring many people along with me.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Overwhelmingly, the comments are like so positive. People are so happy and grateful that you made time to be here today. We so appreciate it.
I'm so happy you guys, I thought about you two and then like the community as a whole a lot when making this film, because it's hard to make a film that is both satisfying to like the gym nerds and also the general audience. And I really tried to walk that line so that there's a little something for everyone. So I'm grateful for your whole community that I'm a part of and listen to this show all the time. And I'm glad that everyone's enjoying the movie.
Yay! Hope you enjoyed this. If you want more behind the scenes like this, or our Q&A podcast that we do every week and we're doing every day from the Olympics starting this Thursday, please check out Club Gym Nerd. It's the way that we support and fund trips like this to the Olympic Games.